Hi there and welcome to your wilderness therapy. My name's Dan, and in today's video I'm going to tell you the best 3 things you can do straight away if you're struggling with depression. Now, before we go any further, I strongly advise you watch my previous video, and that'll help identify the cause of your depression, because once you know the cause, you're better able to try and work towards a cure. I want you to know that you're going to be okay. You're going to get through this, but you need to tell yourself that. Even if you have to say it out loud, say, you are going to get through this. You're not going to be depressed forever. Because the fact you've actually gone to the effort to type into Google or into YouTube how to resolve your depression and watch this video in the first place shows great strength. It also shows that you're looking to get out the other side of this. And it's that strength and it's that level of curiosity and motivation that means that you are going to get out the other side of this. This depression isn't going to be your way of life forever. This is temporary and it will pass. And I'm saying that from experience. One of the main reasons I got into therapy in the first place was because I went through dark times myself, and I realized how you can come out the other side of it. And those lessons and that knowledge that I gained, I want to use to pass on to help other people, because it can be extremely detrimental. It can destroy your life. And for some people, that can be the end. And I'm making sure that you're not just another statistic, because depression is one of the leading causes for suicide. And you don't just want to be a number, because once you're gone, you're gone. There's no coming back from it. Whilst you're still in pain, it means you're still alive. And that pain, as hard as it is for you to see right now, is going to be fuel for further growth. Just as I said to you, the lessons I learned have allowed me to move into the career of being a therapist, so I can help other people. That can be the same for you. You can use your experience to be a much stronger, better version of yourself on the other side of this. So you've got to trust me. Everything I'm talking about comes from my heart, and it comes from my experience, and it comes from my knowledge, because I've been there. I'm starting off with very basic things that you can do in the comfort of your own home that involve the least effort, because I realise that motivation is one of the things you're struggling most with right now. You might be finding it hard just to get up in the morning, just to get out of bed, just to make your way to work. Just all the tasks that used to be so simple and straightforward suddenly seem like such a drag and such a chore. So I'm not going to leapfrog and say, I expect you to go and join this club. I expect you to go and do this and go and do that, because you probably don't feel like capable of doing that right now. That's why we're going to go straight in with starting at number one, which is practicing self-compassion. So at the moment, you're probably hating on yourself. You're stuck in this negative loop. Basically, you have these negative thoughts. Those negative thoughts create negative feelings. Negative feelings mean you give off negative energy. And guess what? The universe gives us back what we put out. Therefore, you receive that negative energy back. And that further reinforces this belief system that you are the problem, but you're not the problem. You're just trapped in that negative loop. So we need to try and cancel this out. And we cancel this out with self-compassion. So I'm going to take you through a few simple things you can do to help build that self-compassion. Number one is to give your body what you need. So what does your body really crave right now? What is it really seeking? It's seeking like a cuddle from within almost, So what's the best way you can do that? Simple things like running yourself a hot bath, listening to some music, making yourself a nice nutritious meal. You're giving your body the nutrients it needs to function correctly, because you shouldn't be punishing your body for something your body hasn't done. This is a mental disorder, but I realize that it affects you physically as well, because the mind and body are inextricably connected. The next thing on the list in terms of how to build that self-compassion is to forgive yourself. You know, apologize to yourself for why you feel like this. As I mentioned before, no one chooses to be depressed. You didn't wake up one day and go, oh, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into a depressive state for a few months, or my next life passes depression. No one in their right mind would ever choose to be depressed. So go easy on yourself, apologize to yourself. This isn't a choice. There's a reason you got here. It could be a gradual build-up of things over time that has got you to this point, or it could have been a sudden life event. But just by apologizing to yourself, saying you're sorry for being so hard on yourself, sorry for beating on yourself, can really validate that pain, and that can have a huge positive impact on you. It's like letting yourself off the hook a little bit. You haven't done anything wrong in particular. You didn't want to get here, but this is where you are. So where you are right now is what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with the past version of you. We can't deal with the future version of you yet. We're dealing with you in your current state, and your current state needs an apology. Just say, sorry, I'm really sorry, I'm being so hard on myself. I realise that this is a temporary feeling and I'm going to get through this. One of the ways we can offset that is to celebrate the small wins. So just give yourself a pat on the back for just showing up each day. Well done. I got out of bed. I didn't feel like doing it, but I did it. I had that shower. I went to work. I made my dinner. I know from the outside, other people might think, well, this is just basic stuff. You could easily do that. When you're truly depressed, those simple things seem like crawling through treacle. They feel like such a drag, and you don't want to do any of them. You just want to pull the cover over your head and stay in bed and wait for it to all blow over, but it won't blow over unless you do something about it, because no one is coming to save you apart from maybe me in this video. But no one's going to come and knock on the door and say, I've heard that you're depressed. I've got a magic pill here, take this and everything's going to be just fine. It just doesn't work like that. So the only way you get the other side is by taking these baby steps and just building back your self-esteem. Giving yourself a pat on the back for just showing up each day is extremely important. Which leads me on to the next thing on the list, is to treat yourself as you would do a friend. We have a tendency to be nicer to even strangers than we are to ourselves. And it's a really bad way to be. We are our own worst critics. It can be good if you want to increase your performance on certain things, but you've got to be content that who you are is enough, especially in this situation, because you're already in that cycle of self-loathing. So just treat yourself with kindness. And one of the analogies I've always liked is you put your own oxygen mask on first. Basically, if you're busy trying to put the oxygen mask on a friend, then you're going to run out of oxygen and you're both going to die. So you need to put your own oxygen mask on so you can function correctly, and then you can save others. And right now you have to save yourself. I can't emphasize this enough. This is a life or death situation. Depression is one of the leading causes for suicide. We don't want to be just another number. I've mentioned this before and I'm mentioning it again. It's a big deal. I had horrible thoughts when I was going through my depression. Thoughts I never thought I have. Anyone who knew me, anyone was looking from the outside, they were like, well, Dan's got it sorted, you know. And I've always done the things that I'd advise people. I've always been good at sticking to a routine of eating well and exercising, but none of that mattered when it all fell apart. I felt totally isolated and I felt like there was no way out. But there is, and I've told you that there's definitely a way out. And that leads me on to the next one. You're not alone. Even if it's just listening to me, you've got to realize there's many other people. Up to 15% of people struggle with depression on a day-to-day basis. That's quite a big number when you multiply that by that as a percentage of 8 billion people on earth. And that's just an estimate. I would say everyone at some point experiences some form of depression. It's just whether it becomes chronic and whether it becomes detrimental to their life as to whether it carries on. But knowing that you're not alone, knowing that other people are going through this, and knowing that they're going to get at the other side of it can help lighten the load a little bit. Just knowing that I've been there and I've come out the other side, it's just one of many, many stories of success as a result of something that seems so negative. Positives can come from it. So you're not on your own. I've got you, and so have many others. Last thing in terms of building self-compassion is to write yourself a letter. This might be a daily task that you just write in your journal. Write down how you're feeling right now, why you think you're feeling this way, and how you want to be feeling tomorrow. You could do it each week, you could do it each month, but it's a way of mapping some form of progress. You can look back at last week's journal entry and say, well, God, I was doing a lot worse than I am now. It might not seem like it because it's small increments of improvement, but when you look back, it's quite powerful. And just writing a letter to yourself is cathartic as well, because once again, you're showing a bit of self-compassion, you're apologizing for the way you feel, you're realizing that you're the person who needs help right now, and you're helping yourself in writing it all down. So that's the last thing on self-compassion. Number two on the list is to be kind to someone or something. This just further opens that door to empathy and compassion. And by increasing the level of empathy that's in your life for others and for yourself, it reduces the level of self loathing that you're experiencing right now. So, simple things like just offering to help an elderly member of the family or someone who's less fortunate than you, or even just suggesting to take a friend's dog for a walk, for example, or just caring for a pet that you have or caring for an animal in general. It just opens that little door a little bit further to feeling the warmth within your heart, and you need a bit more warmth because at the moment that heart is more than likely wrapped up in an ice cold shell, and it's just making you feel horrible from the inside out. It's like rotting your core. That's what depression can feel like. It's a deep, deep sadness that just rots you from the inside. So we need to just put a little candle in there and just start to warm it back up again. And just helping others is incredibly rewarding. You know, our body lets us know when we're doing good by others by making us feel good inside. So just, you know, find a way to just help somebody, even if you're just out and about, just going to the shops and you see someone in need, just give them a hand. And one of the things that I found was those little trips to the shops you often wanted to avoid because you didn't want to bump into people you knew. You were afraid that they were going to say, "Hey, Dan, how's it going?" And you were like, "Yeah, I'm great." Whereas deep down, you're like, "Oh my God, I am going through hell right now." You know, you had to fake it. And there is a certain element of, for that brief moment in time that you fake it, it's going to help you make it because you're sort of convincing your body you're okay when you're not. But deep down, I just wanted to get back home, get back to my own struggle and get through it without being a negative impact on the world, because you can feel it. You can feel yourself giving off that horrible negative energy because you're just wallowing in your own uh, pit of self pity, as it were. So I can understand why you might want to avoid those situations, but you've got to go out and get food and things like that. So those little trips, those innocent interactions can be really helpful. And this leads me on to something that I remember quite vividly. I was on a stealth mission to the supermarket to get supplies. I didn't want to see anybody. I was just battling through it on my own at home. I was going to work, I was eating, I was exercising, and just hoping the cloud would lift at some point. But I went to the shops, and as I pulled into the car park, I was there hoping not to see anyone I knew, and I watched this lady lifting her son, who was probably about 9 years old, out to the back of the car into his wheelchair, and I felt like crying. I can still feel the emotion attached to it now because I suddenly thought, Dan, your problems, no matter how bad they are, they're not as bad as that kid's problems. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for him. And it was so powerful. I was like, book your ideas up. You've got to get through this for the sake of people like that. So just seeing people who are less fortunate than yourself or having some interactions with them can really put your situation in perspective. And yeah, it's not just going to cure your depression like that. Well, he's like that. I shouldn't moan because I'm not paralyzed. I can walk. I know it's not that simple, but it just makes you think, come on, come on, we can do this. If they can show it for themselves in that predicament, you certainly can. So um, it puts things in perspective and it gives you that motivation just to try a little bit harder and do the next thing that is on the list. And that leads me on to the next thing on my list, which is number three, and that is to speak to a specialist. When we're struggling with things, it's very easy to turn to our friends and family, and there's a time and place for that. They can often give you a hug, they can remind you that someone loves you, and they can help you through a lot of things. But when it comes to something quite specialized like depression, unless they've been through their own depressive state and know how to get the other side of it, their advice can often, if they can talk, can often be poor and misleading. Say you go to your parents and say, I'm just really, really struggling, like I'm really depressed right now. They might say, oh, well, just go out and have a drink with your friends, talk it through, or just pull yourself together, you'll be fine. Oh, you don't realize how lucky you are. Look at what you've got. You can't see things like that right now. That they all that does is make you feel even more frustrated that they just don't get it or they just don't understand what you're going through, and it can make you feel even more isolated. You need someone to put their arm around you and say, I know how you're feeling right now. I've been there myself. Look, it will get better. You've just got to take these little baby steps, and gradually you'll move towards a more positive future, and tomorrow is going to be better than today. It just takes time. And that's where a specialist comes in. That's where, like I say, I got into therapy in the first place because I remember when I was going through this, I didn't know who to speak to. I didn't think anyone understood, and I ended up going to try and interact with friends and family and leaving there feeling almost more depressed because I was like, they don't get it. They can't hear me. It's like you're screaming, but no one can hear you. So talking to a counsellor or a therapist or someone who specialises in some form of psychotherapy is really helpful. They can be the conduit between your old depressed state and your future optimistic, strengthened state. So if that's me, great. If this video is forming that little bridge across this murky river, then that's incredible. But don't be afraid to reach out, because these days you don't have to go and have a face-to-face consultation. If you don't feel up for that, you can literally sign up to do an online therapy class. You can do a one-to-one with me over Zoom, and we can just talk through your situation. I'm not going to put any pressure on you, and neither would the other counsellor or therapist. They're just going to try and identify and help you identify how you got to this point and how you can get at the other side of this, because they understand it. They're empathic towards your situation, and you need empathy from yourself and from others right now. So there you have it. Those are the 3 things that you can implement almost immediately. They involve very little effort and hardly any motivation, but it'll kickstart your journey through the other side of this depression that you find yourself in right now. Please click the like and subscribe button if any of this resonated with you, and that'll encourage me to make more videos like this that can hopefully help people who are also struggling. It'll also mean you'll be alerted on my next video, which is going to be a bit more proactive, but give you practical steps that you can take to truly cure yourself of this depression for good, so that you have a bright, optimistic future ahead, because you don't want this to be the ball and chain that drags you down for the rest of your life. Like I said before, life is so precious. You want to make the most of it. So you've got to do whatever you can to get out of the other side of this negative loop you find yourself trapped in. If you want to work with me on a one-to-one basis, obviously that can be really beneficial to you, because it means that I get a better understanding of your situation, and everybody's situation is different. Everyone's depression is different. And only by knowing your specific needs can we tailor a plan to better suit your journey out of the other side. So don't be afraid to reach out. You can get me at dan@yourwilderness.therapy.com. And I really hope this video has been helpful to you. You've got this, and I've got you. Thanks for watching.